Hi, everyone. Melissa with Sagebrush Wellness here. I'm so happy to have you with us today. And I would like to introduce my friend Andrea to you. She is a fellow wellness practitioner, and she does so much work with people who have chronic and autoimmune conditions. And you guys know that's where our jam is here at Sagebrush Wellness. But I wanted you guys to meet Andrea. She has such a special way of looking at this whole journey of becoming well. So would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Melissa. I would, yes. So my name is, obviously I'm from the UK, as you can probably hear. So my name's Andrea, and I'm a health and mindset coach. And like Melissa said, I primarily help people with chronic illness to get back to a state of wellness. And that's mainly what I do. I do help other people along the way, but that's primarily who I help.
I love that. I do help other people along the way. Isn't that what we do? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when people cross our path, there's always a reason why they come, right? Mm-hmm. So when we work with people, like we primarily work with people with chronic stuff and autoimmune stuff to move from being ill into being well. But there are a lot of others.
So many variables. Yes. Which is overwhelming, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about who you are and who you help. You've already touched on that, but let's really clarify that.
Where I am now, or how I got here?
How you got here?
How I got here. Well, it started way back in 1995, which I know I don't look old enough, but that's when it happened. I was a student in my last year at university. I had, up to that point, I had a very healthy life. I was very fit. I was a judo champion. I was a swimmer, a runner, all the sports, and had a typical 1970s, 1980s diet, which was 3 standard meals, no snacking, and mum was very strict about our eating. So I had all that. Then I went off to university and was introduced to alcohol and junk food and everything else. But life's carried on and everything was great. And then, and this is quite extreme really what happened to me, because I know this sort of gradually builds up in people, in most people that I've heard. But for me, there was no sign at all. And then my boyfriend went home after the weekend, and I started with pins and needles. Oof. And I just thought, I've sat funny, or I've trapped a nerve or something. And they were still there when I went to bed, and I thought, I'll just shake them off and it'll be okay in the morning. And the next morning they'd traveled all up my legs, and literally within a day or two I had pins and needles and numbness all over me. I was starting to wobble a little bit, and there was something a little bit odd about my eyesight, but nothing that I could pinpoint. So I went to the student doctor, the doctor that looked after students, and she straight away sent me to the hospital, where they did what I know now is quite common neurological tests. And I stayed there for 2 nighs, and he couldn't find anything wrong, and so released me with stress. Which was really odd, because I thought I'm leaving hospital worse than when I arrived. So by this point, I literally was numb. I couldn't feel anything around my torso. I can't really remember now, but I just remember feeling very swayy. And my eyes were still not quite right. Nothing that I could pinpoint. I couldn't sort of.
Yep.
That was all doing a little bit weird. And my dissertation was due in. So my friends took me to my lecturer, and I handed in my dissertation, and she said to me she thought I'd had a stroke.
Oh.
So I obviously looked quite not great. And my mum and dad were away on holiday. So I was in the house, the student house, and my student friends were looking after me. And in those days, it was still a landline. You'd have to like go to the phone and pick it up.
Yes.
And my mum rang when she landed back from Portugal, and all excited to tell me about how her trip went. And I was literally having a panic attack on the phone.
Oh, girl.
I didn't know that at the time. But I couldn't come down the stairs, and I was like, and my mum was shocked. But the doctor told me it was stress. So I went home. It was the Easter holidays. So I went home to Wales, which was about, I don't know, 3-4 hour drive, to spend Easter with mum and dad. And I, on the outside, I was, oh, isn't this funny? All this weird stuff happening to my body. But obviously in the inside, I was starting to think this is a bit serious, because I was starting to have panic attacks and everything. So after I'd seen my mum and dad, I went to Manchester to spend time with my then boyfriend and now husband. And that was the weekend. And then by the Tuesday, I was back in hospital, where I spent the next, I want to say, 4 months.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I continued to deteriorate basically, and lost, well, I just went downhill, and eventually I was paralyzed from the neck down, incontinent, and blind.
How fun. Not.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
wow.
Yeah, so I had to be hoisted into bed and hoisted into the bath, and helped to be fed, and help clean my teeth, and help on the toilet, and all those things that every person wants to have happen.
Wow.
And at 21, that was quite hard to cope with, really.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you don't have that going on for you right now. So talk to me. How are you now?
Oh my word. Just, you can't compare. It's to be fair, I recovered physically quite quickly. So as quickly as I went downhill, I recovered just, well, let's say, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years. So I had to go all through all the physio and the all that, and had to have special equipment at the house, and but I recovered quite quickly. But I was obviously I'd finished university by then. I'd missed graduation, I'd missed my final exams, missed all that because I was so ill, and had moved to a strange city to be near my boyfriend, with no job, no friends, no family. So I had to deal with all that. So I hadn't really accounted, because back then you didn't really think about emotional well-being or mental health. It was just physical health. So as soon as I was physically well, that was it. Okay, get on with your life. And I did. I did. I just put it in a box. Obviously, it was diagnosed. I haven't told you, but I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and I just put it in a box and carried on with my life. And that's what's continued from that day to maybe about 5 years ago. I continued in this cycle of put it in a box, carry on with your life, pretend everything's okay. Nobody needs to know. I don't want to be defined by my illness. I don't want to be defined as someone with an incurable chronic disease. And I just carry on, and I push to do more exercise than anybody else, and I'd push to prove that I was well, and I would always say yes to social engagements and all that sort of thing, and inevitably I would then crash.
That's how it does. That's what happens.
And I would either have another flare up, which was recognized as a flare up, and they would treat me for that flare up, or I would have chronic fatigue, which they wouldn't consider a flare up. Whereas to me, that was 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Because there was no physical, there was nothing physical. It was just all my existing symptoms would just fly forward. So the brain fog, the fatigue, where I couldn't hold my head up. I would drag my feet. I would slouch. I couldn't. MS hug, tingling, numbness, all the classic symptoms. And because that wasn't sort of recognized as a flare up, I would then class that as my fault, or yeah, it was my fault, and I was weak and I wasn't good enough because I couldn't carry on like everyone else, every normal person out there who could just carry on. And the doctors were great. They'd sign me off work and things like that, and I would slowly once again recover. And I was always so angry and bitter and confused and hurt and all those things. And then I would crawl back up, and then I would neatly put it in a box again, and I would repeat. And I would repeat, and that's how 20 years went by. It would just have this cycle of repeating of health, crash and burn, crash and burn, crash and burn. And then that was fine. That's how it was. And I just continue, because when obviously I was well, physically well, now I realize there's far more to just health than just physical health. But when I was physically healthy, I would literally just box it off and forget it and carry on with my life. And then when it would show up again, I would have so much anger and hate and resentment for it. So I had these two very unhealthy relationships with my MS. And then but I continue, I got married, I had children, everything, so everything was fine. And then about, how long ago now? Maybe about 6 years ago, coming up to 6 years ago, I took voluntary redundancy from my job, of which I was a trainer and coach, performance coach, and I loved coaching. I loved helping people reach their potential. I loved seeing people flourish in whatever, in the work environment. But I was a little bit bored. I've worked in travel for 20 years, and I was a little bit bored. So I thought, I'll take this redundancy and I'll face a new challenge. I'll find a new challenge. But at the same time, my mother-in-law's cancer had taken a turn for the worse. So it turned out that I actually took the time off to care for her. And she survived. She'd been living well with cancer for a few years, and she was really vivacious and loved life. But the cancer took a turn for the worse, and I ended up caring for her with my husband and her daughter. And so that was in the November, and then in the April she died. And I was there with her when she died. And so when you witness somebody take their last breath, it has an effect on you.
Yes, it does.
And I just thought, no more. No more. Something's got to change. I'm not going through my life with this up and down, crazy, all over the place. I need to find this balance. There has to be balance. If I can spend some time being healthy, then I'm missing something. But inevitably, because of grief and everything, I went downhill again.
Yes.
I had another MS attack, and I piled on the weight, and I wasn't looking after myself, and all the usual things. And then I hit a point where, right, okay, no more.
Yep.
And then I stumbled across health coaching, and I thought, that's it.
That's it.
Because I loved coaching, and I have experience of health or lack of health, and I can help people. I've got transferable skills. Let's give this a go. And what I didn't realize was how much of an effect it would have on me. Because I thought I'd worked most, yeah, because I thought I'd worked out most of the reasons why I would lose myself when something tragic would happen, like a family tragedy, or children thrown into the mix, or stress. And that's when I would go downhill, and I would always blame MS. But it wasn't. MS was just sending me a message, and I hadn't connected the mind and body. But I knew how to eat healthily, and I knew how to exercise, and I knew how to have quality sleep, and I knew all that. But the transformation for me was, I can't even begin to tell you how much of the jigsaw, my own health jigsaw puzzle, I just slotted it all into place, and I haven't looked back.
I love that. So that's how you landed on the mindset piece, and really working on how to work on this so that then the body can be well.
And I think there's an assumption then that we think, oh, you think it's all in my head. No, we're not. I'm not saying that. Your symptoms are real. Everything you're feeling in your body, pain, fatigue, tingling, numbness, that's real. That's real. But what we just assume we're this rolling head on top of a body, and they're not interconnected. Of course they're interconnected. If you're excited to see someone, you've got butterflies in your tummy, it's so interconnected. It's unbelievable. So I hadn't connected mind and body, and how you think affects your physical symptoms, and how you treat your body. What you feed your body affects your thoughts, and what you feed your mind affects your body.
Oh, I love that. So simple.
So simple.
So simple.
So simple, but it's so easy to get lost in those negative thoughts and going down that rabbit hole of fear, of uncertainty, of guilt, of judgment, of self-criticism, of all those things. So
let me ask you a question. When you started really addressing those things for yourself, what happened in your body?
Just a weight was lifted, a weight that I didn't even know was there. You carry the weight of expectation, of perfectionism, of people pleasing, of I'm a born worrier, of oh, you're such a drama queen. You carry the weight of what other people have thrown at you, and you've put on yourself as well, and you carry it, and you carry it, and you carry it, and you carry it, and you don't realize how much a weight that is until you let go of it, until you realize it's just a story. They're just thoughts that you've told
Mhm.
yourself, like a record. It's a stuck record.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can change that record anytime you want.
Oh, I love that.
And that's empowering.
Oh,
That's
so
empowering.
much.
Yeah.
So much. But
Yeah.
I think so many of us don't realize that we actually can.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it takes a commitment,
Mhm.
and it takes sort of leap of faith that
Mhm.
that this is possible.
Mhm.
And it takes, I think you can do it yourself, but it's much
Mhm.
easier if you've got somebody supporting you along the way.
Yeah, I have noticed that. And one
Mm.
of the biggest things, because my journey was in a lot of ways so much like yours,
Yeah.
but one of the most important things for me, or the most helpful things for me, when I had help walking through this journey for myself, was somebody to kind of act as a mirror
Yes. Yes.
and go, this is what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
this is what I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and help me see the parts like you were talking about. There was like these two different pieces, and they, you're here and then you're here, and there's such a conflict and back and forth.
Yeah.
But I was able to find some resolution between the two, and there wasn't that constant conflict inside here of what I felt here,
Mm-hmm.
then there was a peace, and then I could, my body could really respond to that.
Yeah. Because if you're constantly in that stress response, and I think the majority of us are in the Western world, because the nature of our society and the way we're constantly on the go all the time, we are in a stress response, and our body reacts accordingly. So
Mhm.
if it's in a stress response, we're,
Mhm. Mhm.
you're not going to digest your food well, you're not going to, your blood pressure is going to be dodgy,
Mhm.
all your gut isn't going to be good, your immune system's going to be depleted, your nervous system's going to be on edge all the time. So it's you cannot underestimate that stress, and the stress that you're carrying around with you,
Yeah.
unknowingly and
Yeah.
unconsciously most of the time.
Yeah. That is huge.
Mm.
That is huge. And think I don't think we realize how big, number one. And number two, I don't think we realize how much uh, how much power we have inside ourselves to actually change that.
Yes, we just think that it's happening to us,
Mhm.
and we have no agency to change it.
Mhm.
But we have, we can't change our diagnosis.
Mhm.
It's not about curing it or anything like that. Let some scientists in some lab sort that out. But we can, we have so much control. There's so much
Mhm.
control, but we've sort of lost the trust in our
Mhm.
decisions,
Mhm.
in our body, and for all the
Mhm.
right reasons. Because at the end of the day, our body has, lied to us and cheated us, and we do mistrust it.
Mhm.
But we can't divorce our body like we
Mhm.
could divorce a partner who has cheated on us and lied to us,
Right.
and we can't, we could just walk away from a marriage. But I'm not advocating that, but we
Mhm.
can, but we can't
Mhm.
divorce our body. It's the only one we'll ever have. So do
Mhm.
you want a destructive, do you want to suppress it like I did, like a dirty little secret? Or do you want to fight it and resent it and be angry with it for all your life? Or do you want a healthy, cooperative, respectful, mutually respect relationship with it? The
Oof,
choice is
I love
yours.
that.
And when you make that decision that you've got these different parts
Mhm.
and they're fighting each other,
Mhm.
and when you bring them together and you accept, it transforms everything.
Oh, completely. I love the way you said that. I apologize for background noise.
Oh, can't hear anything.
Oh, good, good, good. So I want to really kind of hear from you, because I know this is like your heart work that you do. This is your heart work.
Absolutely.
And I love like I love being on the clinical side, right? I like, dissecting everything that's going on in the body, and let's fix this and let's adjust this, and that's my thing. That's my thing. But I know and realize, because of my own journey and the journeys of the people that I work with every day, that this piece is so big. And I love that this has become your area of genius. This is where you just shine, and helping your people come to a place of peace in here and peace here, so that their bodies can heal without that constant rush of protecting myself. And I love that. I love that. So one of the things I want to really hear is how do you achieve your results? That's number one. And then what are some of your top tips for people that are listening right now, things that they can do?
You broke up a little bit there, so just repeat that for me.
Okay. So how do you achieve results for your people? How do you help them achieve their results, I guess would be the better way to say that.
Yeah. So it's a process, and it depends where they're at, but it all starts with acceptance.
Yeah.
I believe. So I thought I'd accepted my diagnosis. I thought I'd accepted that a long time ago. I went through the grieving process and all that, but that's just one one stage of acceptance. If you're putting it in as a dirty little secret, then you've not accepted it. You haven't. So acceptance, and by what I mean by acceptance is, the more you resist something, the more you're going to get the same. And that's a hard thing for people to sort of get their heads around, because most people, when they come to me, they hate it. They just want it gone, and they're so angry, and they're so like, just I've tried everything and nothing works. So the first stage is acceptance. So that's a process, and it takes some people it's just like a light bulb moment, and other people it takes a bit of time. And then from there, we as a coach, my job is to take somebody from where they are to where they want to be, and we just move along that journey at a pace that suits them, introducing new little habits. And we're talking tiny little shifts in perspective. If you think you're looking at the world through this lens, and you shift that lens by that amount, you're going in a completely different direction. And that's all we're talking about. We're talking about the tiniest of shifts, and then that has a ripple effect. And that has a ripple effect, and that has a ripple effect. So the habits could be practical habits around food and diet and sleep, relationships with their loved ones or colleagues or whatever, or it could be, more often than not, it's habits around thinking, negative thoughts, stories that have maybe passed their sell-by date. So I ask, the obvious thing that I always say, so they might have said, well, I've got to look after everyone else. I've got no time to look after me. Is that true? Is it true? Is it really true? Yes, it's really true. Well, is it helpful that you think like that? Well, no, that's not very helpful. So if it was your priority to look after your wellness and your well-being, could you find the time? Yes.
What would
So then
that
it's
look
like
like?
a
Yeah.
case of sort of letting go, really.
Mhm.
Letting go of what no longer serves, what's past their sell-by date, and introducing the new habits
Mhm.
along the way. And it transforms people's lives, and it transforms people's health, emotional, mental, and physical.
Mhm. It does. It does. I love that. So
Mm.
what are some of the things that you could, like you just gave us right there, a very good tip of, is this serving you? Is
Mm.
this really true? Being able to ask ourselves those questions when we're making choices in our day and how we're choosing to take care of ourselves. Because you and I both know that is a lot of how we get to this place of being unwell, is not
Mm.
taking care of this person. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just if we can just lean into what you just spoke and get
Mm-hmm.
really real with ourselves about that, and then go, okay, so what would that actually look like if I was
Yes.
to choose to take care of
Yes.
myself? So are there any other shifts or tips that you would like to share that are so simple and so life-changing like that?
I wrote a few little ones down.
Oh, I love that.
It all comes down to awareness, I think. So if you're not aware
Mhm.
that these stories are playing out in your mind,
Mhm.
because it's just automatic, and we're all creatures of habit. So it's
Right.
about breaking that habit cycle.
Mhm.
And like you said, you put a mirror against yourself. So you can start to just become aware of your thoughts and ask yourself, is it true? Is it helpful? Can I let it go? Is this helping me? Is this serving me to take me forward? So just start asking yourself those questions. Journaling is my go-to when it comes to,
I love
you
that.
know, I tend to brain dump if I'm having, and this is happening, having a right old rant, and then I can step back and read what I've just written and ask myself, are these thoughts helpful? How would I react if I wasn't so emotional? I've got a long list of coaching questions, really, and basically coach myself in a journal. So you could always do that. One of the main ones that I changed was my relationship to exercise. And I know for some people who are disabled or ill, that's maybe not for them, but for me, exercise was always part of my life. But when I was up and down, I had a real love-hate relationship. So when I was ill, I couldn't exercise, so therefore I hated MS. And then when I was well, I would push myself to get to the next, because I was out to prove that this MS wouldn't beat me, and I could do more than anyone. And I'd do this marathon and this race and lift heavy weights and all the rest of it. And then obviously pushed myself too much and fell off a cliff again. So I have removed the pressure of exercise, and I now call it movement instead.
I love that. I use that as well.
I love movement. Movement is just joyous and freeing and liberating. Oh,
I know. I love it.
and I do it for the fun of it,
Yep.
and it's supposed to be fun. Life isn't meant to be hard and a struggle, and we make it so difficult. It should be fun.
I love that.
When it comes to food, I don't teach any restrictive or any form of diet. Obviously, if some of your clients have got gut issues, then that's a different matter, But for me, I just teach food for energy. Because a lot of my clients have got chronic fatigue, so I just tell them or help them to eat more of the good stuff, and then the body will soak that up and crave less of the not so good stuff.
Right.
But equally, do not restrict or deprive yourself, because the minute you restrict or deprive yourself, guess what you're going to want?
Exactly.
And that's
Ah,
mindset as well. That's a
mhm,
mindset shift, because that's the whole relationship with
mhm,
exercise, and your whole relationship with food. So do you have a good relationship with food?
mhm,
Are you an emotional eater? All those things, all those questions. And then the one thing that has one of the many things, but has totally transformed my relationship with stress, with reacting to children and teenagers and
mhm,
husbands and
mhm.
everything in life,
Yeah.
is introducing a breathwork practice.
Oh, I love that. I
You know,
just love it.
and it doesn't even have to be, I don't teach meditation and I don't teach mindfulness per
Mhm,
se, but I teach conscious breathing,
mhm,
because it's not about sitting cross-legged on the floor and going you don't
mhm,
have to do that. People are quite intimidated sometimes when we start talking about breath work.
mhm,
we I think we breathe something like 20,000 times a day.
mhm. Yeah,
So how much of that is conscious and how much of it is unconscious?
exactly.
So what I teach is two easy habits that you can start doing. Every time you're not talking or eating, shut this and breathe through that.
Oh, I love that.
Easy peasy, because
Mhm,
you're instantly going to breathe slower and deeper when you breathe
mhm,
through your nose.
mhm. Exactly.
Nasal breathing is a thing.
You're right.
It is. It is.
Exactly.
And then the second one is just introduce breath, like 2 or 3 deep breaths when you're going to the toilet, when you're putting the kettle on, when you're driving from A to B, when you're putting your shoes on.
Mhm,
These, when you're washing up,
mhm,
all you're going to do those things anyway, and then
mhm,
just breathe deeply in and out 2 or 3 times. You will feel different. You will
mhm.
feel more relaxed
Exactly.
in 2 or 3 deep breaths. And then if you want to build on that, then build on it, but you don't have to.
Mhm. I love that. Mm. So I'm gonna
How,
ask you.
how amazing is breath with breath work as well?
Mhm,
We take it for granted. Obviously, we have to breathe, otherwise, we're not going to continue living. But we take it for granted, like we take our
mhm.
bodies for granted. We
Right.
If our breath is the only conscious tool we have got in our toolkit to communicate directly to our unconscious mind.
Mhm. Right?
I mean, that's amazing. That's
And so
amazing.
easy.
So easy.
Mm.
This isn't about, you know, and we work with people with very complicated and complex
Mhm,
issues and
mhm,
symptoms, but the lifestyle changes and habit changes
mhm.
don't have to be that complicated.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can be fun.
They can be fun, yes. You can do the breath work with your children. They're so open to
Oh,
that sort of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I was just thinking of a young lady. She was in second grade and she had ADHD. And we taught her how to do tapping,
Oh, yes.
EFT tapping
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
breathing in, like put them together when she would start feel that, starting to rise up in her body. And it was so cute because you'd see her tearing around the playground and you'd see her start to do this, and then you'd see her
Oh,
slow down, you'd see her breathe, and pretty
oh,
soon she'd stop and then away she'd go again. She was all,
yes.
her whole anxiety level had gone back to where she felt good. And so she was off to, it was so cute, but it was something that she could learn to, you don't have to stop to do that. I mean,
No,
she was still
no.
movement.
Yeah.
She's constant movement, but it was just, I think we sometimes think that these shifts and things have to be so big. And so,
Yeah. And I think we want to see those immediate results
yeah.
because that's who we are. But
Mhm.
we forget to notice the little celebrations along the way.
Mhm.
And when you start to, if you have a gratitude practice at the end of the day,
Mhm.
when you make that a habit, and
Mhm.
that's the key, just make that a habit, and you
Mhm.
will start to celebrate those little wins.
Mhm.
And then those little wins become bigger wins, and then you
Grow.
start noticing all these beautiful things that you're doing. And when you add them all together, they just transform everything.
Exactly.
Oh, you're frozen. Oh, you froze. You were like that.
I love that, but that is how it happens. Literally, it's how it happens. But that's how recovery happens.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's really important to have someone by your side holding your hand every step of the way,
Yep.
because in the busyness of life you forget. We all forget. I forget. Especially in the early days, because you're introducing things that you've never introduced before.
Exactly.
So having someone to holding your hand and reminding you to say, oh yes, and you did this, and this went really well,
Mhm.
and that went really well,
Mhm.
and it propels you forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just like you were saying, to have someone outside of yourself
Yeah.
that can say, I see this. You wanted to do this twice this week and you did it. Instead of us just going, okay, done, and on to the next thing. And we're
Yes.
constantly in our head going, not taking the time to look at that and go, okay, that was really big. Or to see something in our bodies, like when our bodies shift and we're like a new thing that we can, we're a little better in this space, or we're, our minds are becoming more clear, and, whatever it is, the symptoms that start to just kind of go like this, sometimes they go down so slowly, it's hard for us to recognize that unless someone is walking with us and go, hey, you didn't have vertigo this week, to be able to help us understand and really, not really chart them, but recognize them.
Yeah, it is the recognition and the repetition.
Mm-hmm.
But also because, well, with anyone really, but especially with taking somebody from, ill health to wellness, if we did it in one big jump, then our bodies would react negatively. Yeah. Because it needs to. If we're talking about the prehistoric part of our brain, and if we make these huge changes, then you'll just sabotage and you just go back to square one, because your brain will fire up all this fear, all this, oh, you're not going to do it, oh, you're not good enough, what makes you think you can do it? And so by tiptoeing, keeping that monkey brain nice and quiet, but the tiptoes, it's embracing the tortoise, not the hare.
I love that.
Which took me a long time.
Me too.
I fought that one for a long time, but
yeah,
I love my tortoise now.
there you go. I love that. Yeah. So what is your favorite part about what you get to do? What is it that just fills your heart up when you get to see in your clients?
Yeah, it's the realization that they're not broken.
Oh,
when they realize that they're not broken, they've never have been broken, and they don't need fixing. They don't need fixing. They everything's within them. They've just not been given the opportunity to do it and believe in it and believe in themselves, because usually they've been ill for quite a long time, and the world's knocked them down and knocked them down, and they don't trust their decisions, and they don't trust their own instinct, and they've sort of handed over their power to men in white coats and and medication, which medication's got its place, of course it has. I'm not, but you don't hand all of yourself over to them, because then that disempowers you. And I think that to begin with, a lot of people feel scared to empower themselves. It feels quite a responsibility and quite scary.
Yeah.
But that's why you have someone to hold your hand, who knows that it's possible, who knows that you can do it, who knows that all the answers are within you. And when they realize that, when that penny drops, that's
Love that.
amazing.
Oh, I love how you said that. I could totally ditto that, because I think my very favorite thing is when the realization comes around and they're like, I can get well.
Yeah. And whatever that looks like for them. Whatever that looks like for them. And it's a journey, and I hate using this journey, but it is. We think we're going to an end destination, but we're not. It's a constant. I'm learning every day. I'm learning something new about my body and my mind and what it can do every day.
I know, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. I
know. Gives you tingles, doesn't it?
Oh, I know. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna cry.
No, I did have to just catch my breath then.
I did too. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I remember feeling that way. I remember having given away my power. I remember thinking that I was broken. I remember the day when I started to realize, oh my gosh, I can, like, it is actually possible for me to get better.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it.
Stay consistently better as well. That's the thing, isn't it? Consistent, that lovely balance.
I love that.
We're all looking for.
I know, right? And we work every day to make happen. Oh my goodness. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else that's kind of riding in your heart that you want to share?
I think
before we wrap up.
I feel the more and more I do this work, the more I feel like I'm like on this mission to transform or change the narrative around chronic illness, because there is this belief that people with chronic illness, or even anxiety or depression or any of those things, that we're broken and we need fixing. And I want to help people, which is a hard thing to understand when you're in that dark place, but I want them to see that it's a gift. A diagnosis is a gift. It's an opportunity to start letting go of things that no longer serve you, so that you can bring in the new. So it's finding the opportunity, the lesson, because the thing is, until you learn the lesson, it just keeps coming back again and again and again until you learn it. So it took me 20 years to learn the lesson. So I just don't want anyone else to take 20 years to learn that lesson. Right? And it doesn't have to be a curse. It can be an opportunity if you choose to see it that way.
I love that.
Yeah. Love that. And I just think people need to hear that, because that's not the story that comes out of the doctor's surgery.
Yeah.
You know?
Seriously. Yeah.
Mm. For all, for all the right reasons. They don't have time. They're there to diagnose,
Mhm.
and they haven't got the time to look at you as a whole person.
Yeah. And
But
this
yeah,
isn't part of their training.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between COVID and long COVID, you know, amazing with COVID, not so great with long
Right.
COVID.
Right.
So,
Oh, girl. So what is the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
um, well, I think if you're over in the US, then I'd probably look at my website,
Okay.
which is www.andreathomascoaching.com. I am on social media, but I'm only on Facebook because I don't understand the others.
I get it.
And I've got on Facebook, I've got a free group that's called the Energy Bank,
Okay.
and that's where energy is the currency of choice.
Oof, I love that.
So we take you out of the red and put you back in the black.
I like that.
So
I
that's a
like it
good
a lot.
place. I share some free content with a nice little community of people that support
Mhm.
each other, and I do some free trainings and things like that in there. So that's good.
Awesome. So if somebody wants to work with you personally, the best way to do that is get on your website.
Yeah.
And is there a way to book in with you there?
There is, yeah. And I
Okay.
think my
Tell
number's
us
on
how to
there
do
as
that.
well. Just click on the book, whatever it is. I
Okay.
can't remember what it says now, but like a clarity
Okay.
call with me.
I'm going to put all of this in the description around this this recording
Okay.
when I post it. So I just want to make sure that we talk through really clearly how people can actually book with you.
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you for spending time with me and
Oh,
just sharing all of this. I appreciate it so much.
well, thank you so much, Melissa. It's always a joy talking to you. It's such a
Uh,
happy face.
thank you. And I love that. Like what, so I like the clinical part, but you love the really working on the inside part. And I love how those just kind of mesh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you can't have one without the other. They
mhm,
all interconnect, don't they? You
I
know?
like that.
Yeah, they do. If
It's
you can.
enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And all our systems are interconnected, and we're this amazing, complex, complicated human being.
Love
And
this.
it's just we're beautiful, amazing, privileged people to be alive. So
I know, right?
we don't deserve to struggle and suffer. We need,
Fun and being
fun.
able to live a full,
Yes.
effective,
Yes.
purposeful life.
Yes. That's our
Yeah,
birthright.
it's our birthright.
Hmm.
I love that. Thank
Hmm.
you, my dear.
Thank
Mm,
you.
Hugs
Thank you
to
so
you.
much. Hugs to
And
you
I'm
across
sure
the
we'll talk
pond.
again.
Yes.
We seem to have a habit of this.
We do, yeah.
All right, my dear. Well,
Thank you,
enjoy
Melissa.
your day.
And you too.
Thank you so much.